Hey, all you cool witches and speedsters! Thank you for joining us again on another episode of Spilled Popcorn, where we spill the tea on the latest and greatest TV shows and movies going on. With me by a court order, Mr. Constantine Morales.
Oh, hello.
You know, a little American Idol reference, Mr.
Yes,
Constantine.
I got it. Love it.
It fits so nicely, I couldn't help myself. And myself, of course. I am Mr. Kirkley Clarkson.
I love Kelly. She's great.
You got some laugh tracks in there you could just like play on top of this?
No, I don't. If you, on the off chance that you say anything funny, I will. Just kidding. Just joshing.
Burn.
No, that was good. I love Kelly Clarkson, by the way. I feel like people don't appreciate her enough. I just have to say that.
No. She is an American treasure. One could say she's an American Idol.
Yes. Huh? I like it. I see what you did there.
Oh, it's too good. It's too good. Cam, what's going on? How did you like episode 6 of WandaVision?
I liked it. I feel like the show has hit its stride. I feel like it's walking with a little pep in its step these days. I think this was perhaps the least gimmicky episode that we've had, which is a good thing, I think, in general. So yeah, I'm ready to get into it. I'm excited. Yeah,
definitely. So as I already spoiled it here, hopefully you've been watching the first episodes of our Spilled Popcorn series. We're walking along with WandaVision, Disney Plus, and Marvel's MCU expansion pack. I guess we could go ahead and call it that.
I like that.
One thing that I loved about this week's episode is that I watched it twice, which I've not done yet. So
yes, no more rookie numbers for you, Kirk. You're killing it. You're in the big leagues now.
Like I said, I think I'm going to climb up to watching it 9 times before we record.
Seems excessive, but I appreciate the commitment. I really do.
I'm going to start taking every Friday off of work.
It's PTO the rest of the month. Hey, whatever you got to do, man.
Kirk hasn't been to a Friday since 1994, whatever. So one cool thing also about that is that, so I watched it when it came out because I'm horrified of spoilers.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. I'll tell you, I get on Twitter every morning, and this was the first time I hadn't woken up and gone straight to watch it. And the spoilers were already out there. I was like, whoa. Luckily, this was not an episode you could spoil that well, really. So it was okay. But I mean, the Twitter trends were already Wanda, Darcy. But I was like,
Yes. I can't do it because I zone in on social media hard on the weekends. So if I get a glimpse of that, well, then I'm just going to be mad. I'm going to be spoiled, all that jazz. So if you're able to watch it, if you're in Central Time to watch it at 2 a.m., join me. Not in my house because, that's not cool. But join me telepathically in watching it with me at 2 a.m. So watch it then. And I watched it this evening right before we walked in the studio, just like you did last week.
That's right.
So.
Good. Flip the script this week.
Very fun. So without further ado, let's dive right into this. I want to get my stream of thought notes, and feel free to interject whenever you want to. Maybe it's this time when I get something wrong, a fact, which I've gotten several things wrong over the past 4 weeks that we've been doing this. I think it's been 5 weeks, actually. So there's another one.
No, this is week 5, right? This is week 5.
That's right.
It's confusing. I keep getting confused because this is the 5th episode of Spilled Popcorn, but we're talking about the 6th episode of WandaVision. So it's like, it's been like that all season, and I'm so confused.
No more double episodes, MCU. No more doing that.
You're messing with us.
All right, let's get into this. We're going to talk about the unwrapping. Do you have like a rapper sound effect for that too?
I should just get I think I have some gums. Just next week we'll get an unwrapping when you do. There it is. Look at the improvisation right there.
There is a basket of trash right here that who knows what's in there, but this is
perfect. Some ASMR right there.
I'm gonna leave this on this nasty trash here for the next 3 episodes of Spilled Popcorn. So we open up with WandaVision, episode 6, and man, it is very familiar. I was desperately hoping for a Full House episode.
Yeah, I know.
I'm okay because what we got was a Malcolm in the Middle opening.
Underrated.
Did you watch Malcolm in the Middle?
Oh, I loved Malcolm in the Middle. I think it warmed my heart. It just felt it was immediate. It was like as soon as it started happening, I was like, oh, it's Malcolm in the Middle. That is so awesome. So, Malcolm in the Middle, underrated show. Great way to pay homage to it here. So I loved it. Loved it right out of the gate.
Yes, and Bryan Cranston's alma mater right there. So we have the Malcolm in the Middle intro. I thought I would turn on the wrong show until I saw Wanda brushing her teeth in the bathroom. I was slightly alarmed that I clicked on something, or Disney Plus had a huge glitch, and I was very concerned. It was also 2:00 in the morning, so there were lots of things playing against me. One thing about the intro is that it's very interesting that the Maximoff family, so Wanda, Billy, Tommy, and Vision are in this, but also Pietro has been added to it, of course, because he was in the most recent episode.
That's right.
But then Agnes is in the opening for an extended period of time. I thought that was very, very fascinating.
She continues to be a fascinating character, doesn't she? I mean, she's never in the forefront, but always around. She's always around.
Yeah, and she, from episode 1, she's had a lot of screen time, but not a lot of explanation still to this day. So I don't know what episode is going to be the big reveal about what she's actually doing. We got a lot of details later on in this episode, but even that was not enough to still know where she falls in this crazy hex. So Wanda comes down right after the intro in a Sokovian fortune teller outfit. Which is her actual costume from the OG comics. So that's a great nod. We also have a flashback pretty quickly when Pietro comes in and sees her come down. He's kind of making fun of her. He says something about how they had Halloween when they were kids. And there's this really flashback that Pietro describes that Wanda doesn't remember, which is very telling because, as we know, wrong Pietro in the wrong MCU timeline as of right now. And Wanda calls him out on it. She's like, I don't remember it that way. So lots of little tidbits about that throughout the rest of this episode here. Yep. Both of the costumes are callbacks to those real comic books. Visions is fantastic because no way, shape, or form would MCU allow that costume to be a real costume today. It's awful. Cam, do you remember what they refer to it when he comes down the stairs?
Yeah, they said he was like a Mexican lucha libre or something.
That's right.
Which was a great moment. It was actually very funny.
Yes. I love how playful they continue to create Wanda and Vision because we got none of that in the MCU film. So they're really not retconning, but I don't know. They're just expanding.
They're riding the ship, I think, a little bit. I think that something was owed to these characters. You know, I think they're big characters in the comics. I think comic book fans know that, and they haven't really been big characters so far. So this is good. This is making right in the universe, I think. Yes.
I love the way you put that. So Vision, he starts to leave the house as soon as he's in his costume, and he says he's going out on neighborhood watch, and that immediately averts Wanda's plans. She's like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And Vision, being tuned in to what's going on in the world, but not always calling her out, because it kind of resets a little bit. That tension resets at the beginning of every episode. He says, what do you mean? And she kind of steps back, and then she allows him to just go off on his own, which tells us a couple of things. You know, it tells us that she, like she said, she doesn't make people go to their dentist appointments or mow their lawn. Therefore, she also doesn't know exactly where everyone is at every second of the day in this reality. So she knows that Vision's going to go off on his own now. He has free will until she's actually actively controlling him. I think there's two levels of controlling that we see here in a little bit as soon as Vision goes off on his own personal neighborhood watch, which is separate from the real neighborhood watch with Herb and some other of the neighbors. So he's out there. Not sure if this is important. This next item that happens before we get into the actual Halloween and trick-or-treating, we have Pietro has a tattoo that says "Mom" on his left upper shoulder. Do you think that's anything at all, or do you think it's totally random that is on his upper shoulder bicep area?
I don't know. I don't know. Like that, I saw it, but it didn't register to me as an Easter egg at all. I don't know. It just sort of flew under the radar. But yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, I have wondered. Now, I don't know that we ever saw Aaron Taylor Johnson's arm in the MCU. I don't think so either. That would be the only thing I could think of was why that would say "Mom" on it. Like what kind of connection that is. I'm massively speculating. I need to know. And if anyone else caught that and has an idea, please let me know.
Yeah, let us know for sure.
Cut to Sword. They're removing the 80s drone that attempted to waste Wanda and Westview in the last episode. They're dissecting it. It's going off to their on-site lab. And Hayward is getting angry at Monica and Darcy because they're giving him flack. One fantastic just piece of characterization. He says, "Which one of you is the sassy best friend?" Agent Jimmy Woo appears right behind them and starts defending them. So this little trio that they're building is just so fantastic and fun and powerful because
it's the best. I would watch a whole show. I would watch a whole show of Jimmy Woo, Monica Rambeau, and Dr. Darcy. Like straight up, I would.
And there has been speculation that Jimmy Woo should get his own show. There's been some bubbles a-brewing online. I don't know if we'll get it, but man, it would be fantastic.
He's awesome.
To see.
He's a fan favorite at this point. I mean, people love him.
Yeah, even if it wasn't, I would even settle for like Quibi formatting, so like 10-minute episodes.
Yeah, dude, that would be cool. Disney Plus has the ability to do things like that, so we'll see.
Yes, maybe they're going to be the ones who buys up all the old content from Quibi and the software. We'll see. So they start debating as you would expect them to. Again, this is a pretty straightforward episode. And Monica is arguing with Hayward that Hayward's concerned about the question comes up, should they terminate Wanda? In so many words, they say it. And Monica references, if Wanda is the problem, then she has to be the solution.
It was a good line. Loved it.
More sound effects for you. It's so powerful because the question asked even before that was, if she dies, what happens to this reality? What happens to these people? And we have no clue. They don't have the data on it. They don't have the science on it because it's completely mystical. And they have to be careful as Monica wants to take it, but not as forthright and blunt that Hayward is taking it.
Yeah, and I think they know at this point, Monica certainly does, having felt the full force of Wanda's abilities, that she even says, we're outgunned. You can't outgun her. So people are starting to get an understanding of the full scope of Wanda's powers, and ironically, I guess, or in a meta sort of way, so are we as the fans,
Absolutely. Hayward references Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel one more time. They brush past it, and then we cut to trick-or-treating, just like that.
There it is.
We get some more sprinkles. Wanda's asking Pietro. He's testing him a specific question about their past and the orphanage. He completely avoids it. That's huge. We're going to talk about that later. Pietro, Billy, and Tommy, they are in their comic book costumes as well. Their references as well. There's a little bit of double entendre because I know that this part's interesting. The hair on Pietro is exactly as it should be, but it's blown back because he runs so fast. But at the same time, the way his hair is shaped is kind of in a devil-like format, kind of like horns. So the question is, did Disney Plus know that everyone would speculate upon this? And I don't know, all the thought of who is Mephisto in this world? There's so much going on in every one of these episodes that there's too much to talk about. We're going to need like 3 hours to start doing these episodes, but we'll see. I digress. Herb notices something off with Wanda. He even says, is there anything you want changed? So there's another person who's being controlled but actively participating in Wanda's vision, pun intended. Vision. We cut to him. So many stream of thoughts notes here. So I'll have to shrink a couple of them here so we can keep our time and talk about all of them as well. His charade is very lucid. Back to Herb. His charade is very lucid as we go through it. Vision wanders upon a part of town that women and this man and woman. One is she's hanging laundry, but she's not actually hanging laundry. She's just doing the same movement over and over, just left and right. There's a man behind her. There's presumably her husband. He moves a jack-o'-lantern, and then he moves it back, and they're doing the same thing. Cut to one of the commercials. This commercial, Cam, it could have been a Nickelodeon commercial.
I loved the style of it. Subject matter is a little disturbing, but the style was perfect. It looked like a Cookie Crisp commercial or a Hawaiian Punch. It had that vibe.
You nailed it. Either one of those. There were all those claymation ones that had that very specific look. You absolutely nailed it. So the commercial, the brand, I guess, is called Yo Magic, the snack for survivors.
Yeah.
cut back right back to trick or treating. It's just that quick and that simple. There's a conversation about what happened to your accent that Wanda asked Pietro, and he asked her the same thing. So he's everything that she's throwing at him, he is throwing right back at her because he is avoiding everything. Super sus, super sus. Also want to call out there is some fantastic imagery in this episode, especially right when they're having that conversation. There are two movies playing on the marquee. We have The Parent Trap and we have The Incredibles. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why they're playing at the same time because they came out about 6 years apart. Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan, 1998. The Incredibles, 2004. Of course, we can see
that surprises me that it's only 6 years. Doesn't that?
Yeah.
Doesn't Parent Trap seem way older than 1998?
It does. It does because... which means that we're probably like almost identical to Lindsay Lohan's age.
Yeah, right.
Just based off that. Because like when you look at those dates, they even look far apart because you have the 90s and the 2000s. Yeah. It's so dumb how that happens as you get older. But of course, the Parent Trap twins and The Incredibles, a whole super family. So I get it why they threw it in there. I wonder if there's any other connections that we have with those. To speed things up, we see the kids have powers. It's almost like a non-event. It's almost like everyone knew that they would have powers, so they just like threw it in there in like, hey, you got powers, me too, let's run, let's go. And we're just off to the races in this episode. One thing they drop is Wanda tells the kids, don't cross a street called Ellis Avenue. Don't do it. Don't do it. Then, of course, who crosses it? Vision. He crosses it a little bit later in the episode. He breaks through the barrier to escape and see what's going on, only preceding that with the conversation with Agnes. And Agnes is out of her mind. She is kind of basically stoned out, just like the rest of the crowd, in an even more zoned out part of town. Instead of just one family, there's the entire area is like the dead zone. Everyone's just frozen. Agnes gets woken up a little bit, and then Vision rolls out, breaks that barrier, and he's telling Hayward and his sword team the people in there need help. Not that he needs help, because Agnes in a moment before also told him that he was dead, but he is telling them the people need help and ready to sacrifice his life again. So it's so good. The writing is so good in this. So I don't know. There's even more than that to take on, but I want to get into the butter of the best parts of this episode. Cam, I'm going to kick it to you for things that stood out, the highlights for you, the butter that made this episode really, really good for you.
Yeah, I mean, so I think in general, big takeaways I have are the kids. You know, we sort of had talked about the kids potentially being Wiccan in speed since they first made their first appearance in episode 3. That's no longer a secret or an Easter egg. I mean, that just is. You know, they are Wiccan in speed. They wore the Wiccan in speed costumes for Halloween, and they are fully, you know, within the last 5 minutes or so of the episode, they are fully aware of their powers and already flexing their muscles there a little bit. So that is a huge reveal. Again, I mean, I think we'll get into it in the speculation, but I think that's a huge reveal. Quicksilver, Pietro, what's going on with this guy, man? I mean, this is a big part of it. So you talked about Herb. You talked about Agnes, how the people who are sort of closer to Wanda and Vision's inner circle seem to have some sort of awareness of, that they're involved in some sort of charade. You know, they're aware of something going on there, and maybe the others are too. We just don't really get to experience it because they don't talk. But Quicksilver is a level beyond that, right? Like he is psychoanalyzing Wanda. He's delving into it. He's like, well, you just have me here because, you know, you're trying to, you know, you found the Shangri-La and you don't want to revisit old memories. That's why I look different. And, you know, you don't have an accent. I don't have an accent. Who cares? You know, like he is fully into it. He even talks about the ethics of the whole situation. He's like, so where were you hiding all these kids up till now? Because there's all these kids trick-or-treating. So he is at the same level as Wanda's consciousness of this reality. Like, he has full awareness in the same way that she does, which is a very interesting twist because nobody else is at that level. Vision's not at that level at all. I mean, Vision's figuring it out. He's putting the pieces together, but he's not at all where Pietro is. So that I think is important. That I think is an important note, and I'm sure we'll get into it more in speculation, but that definitely caught my eye. Agnes, her little scene. She has one scene in this episode. It's kind of creepy. She's at the edge of town. We don't know why she's at the edge of town, but she's kind of like, I'm lost. I'm looking for the town square, and I'm trying to get to there. And Vision's like, you're lost in a town that you grew up in? What are you talking about? And he kind of snaps her out of it, and she freaks out. She's dressed as a witch and even cackles like a witch in this scene, which again, we talked about it in previous speculation sections, the crumbs. We talked about her potentially being Agatha Harkness. Her name is Agnes. Take out a few letters, you get to that from Agatha Harkness. Agatha Harkness is in the comic books as a mentor to Scarlet Witch. She's not a bad guy. She's never been a bad person. She's just, another character in the Marvel Universe who could be responsible for some of the things going on in WandaVision. So her being dressed as a witch seems telling, considering every other character is literally dressed as themselves. Quicksilver's dressed as Quicksilver. Wanda's dressed as 1960s Scarlet Witch. Vision's dressed as 1960s Vision. So it is seems important to note that she's a witch. And then the big scene, Vision says, to heck with this, I'm out. He puts it all together. He goes to the edge of town. He sees the zombie people, like you said, and he says, I'm out of here. That I'm going past Ellis. I see the force field. I'm out of here. And we know that he's dead. We know that he is a reanimated corpse of sorts. So predictably, as he comes out, he starts to deteriorate, right? He starts to fall apart and die. Which is interesting for another reason, because earlier in the episode, we find out that Tyler Hayward has figured out how to track people within the town. He's got everybody as little dots on the map, but he's got one big, bright, shining light on that map, and it's not Wanda. It is none other than Vision. And so Sword's got an interest in Vision that's beyond what has been said thus far. Why was he at Sword headquarters to begin with? Why did Wanda have to steal him from there? What were they doing with him when she stole him from there?
Yes.
And is that why Tyler Hayward is interested in this case more so than others? Because he wants something from Vision. But the question becomes, what is that thing that he wants? Because Vision presumably has no value in the human world. I mean, he's got no Mind Stone. His head's crushed. His body's, his synthezoid body is dead to the world. So what exactly is it that Tyler Hayward wants? But I think those are the big things that stick out from this episode. And then, of course, Wanda finishes it off with an epic grand finale by extending the hex by a good, presumably 10 miles each direction.
Yep.
Just spitballing there. And no one makes it out except for director Tyler Hayward, a couple of his cronies, and Monica and Jimmy Woo. Even Darcy gets swallowed up, unfortunately. So
she does. Man, it really is such a nuanced, just like kind of run of the mill episode until that moment, and it all comes together so beautifully in that moment. I also love when Darcy gets taken in. She literally is censored by the hex because she's about to drop the F-bomb, and as it fades across her face, it turns into fudge.
Yeah, it's so great. They're just, like I said, they've hit their stride. They're just playing all their hits right now. I mean, it's really good television. It really, really is.
Let's just dive right into the crumbs. I don't have a paper that would sound like crumbs in front of me, so
well, I don't even know what crumbs sound like, to be honest with you. What do we smash a cookie and just have it like sprinkle down on the microphone? I don't know.
That's it. I think that's exactly right. So let's talk about the crumbs. You mentioned that Darcy hacks into Sword's network, their most classified section. Hayward's got this crazy firewall up, but Darcy is a genius. And what she finds is a file that is for Director Hayward's eyes only. The file name, I paused it. It's called, it doesn't say Operation, but I'm going to call it Operation Cataract. We get no other details from that. And when I think of cataract, I think of eyes. And then you also think of vision. So it has to do with him. But again, like you said, what is it going to be? Is it something? Can we still download his hard drive that was created for Jarvis? Even, because they were kind of fused as one. What does this mean? And you tackle that onto when she's looking at the map, when she's right as she's opening up the file, there's this big plot of land right outside of the hex that says vibranium, and it's shining like bright red and pink, kind of very similar to Wanda's powers. So we have this vibranium underground plot of land, and one of the things that's the file that says
so
cataract.
When do they say the plot of land thing?
They don't say it.
Okay.
It's so when Darcy cracks the firewall, I mean, it's blink and you miss it. This scene lasts probably 12 seconds. It says Operation Cataract. They zoom in on her computer screen, and they zoom in on the hex, and you see the hex, and then right below it there's this little square, little rectangle that says vibranium in all caps. Also on the operation file that's for Hayward only, it says classified weapons intel. So I have so
is the
questions.
vibranium just vision though?
No.
Oh,
well,
okay.
Is he made out of pure vibranium?
He's made out of vibranium.
But it's like a plot of land. That's what I'm so confused about.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and check that. That's interesting.
It isn't his blue indicator dot that they were following him on. It's like a separate thing.
Gotcha.
So
interesting.
I gotta know. If you guys know, our listeners, I know there's you're close to 100,000 subscribers now. If you guys know, let us know, because we need to know. We really need to know. More crumbs that we have here. Lost my notes. 1 second here. My question is, do we think Darcy's going to have the same effect that Geraldine / Monica did? That she's going to be kind of aware, or is she going to be completely zombied and zoned out?
Well, I think here's what's interesting. For the first time, we're getting people inside the hex who are aware of what the hex is, right? Geraldine / Monica was not aware. She got sucked into it before they knew anything about it. So this really is the first time that anyone has gone in, except for maybe the beekeeper. This is the first time,
wherever he is.
Yeah, that anybody has gone in knowing what it is. So if you couple that with Darcy's superpowered brain, does she have an advantage over what the hex does? Does she have an advantage to be able to break free of the spell, or at least be somewhat more aware of what's happening while she's in there? I don't know. I would hope so. Otherwise, it's going to be interesting for her.
Yes. I think it's also going to be great to see Darcy, the character, become a completely well, I guess she'd be in the 2000s next, but because I don't think that she'd be kicked back any farther than that, right?
Yeah.
So she's going to be maybe emo. I don't know.
That would be awesome.
What's she going to look like?
Yeah, she's just going to be Kat Dennings from the first Thor movie. Like she's just going to, it's just going to be that character, like young Darcy, the poli-sci major is who it's going to be. Which would be cool.
Which leads to, what is she going to be able to like remember her cell phone number or her house phone number and call herself?
Maybe. Yeah, it's a good question. As technology advances and capabilities advance, like, does that present some trouble to what Wanda's doing in Westview?
Yeah.
We still have the question of, is Wanda doing all this? I mean, that question is still there. It's 6 episodes in, and yes, she's in control to an extent, but is she doing it? Why is she here? She doesn't know. She doesn't know why she's there.
Yeah, which is why Pietro's role in this is so clever by the MCU, is that you don't know. He could 50-50 completely the way how open-ended his questions are. He either knows most of what's going on and he's looking for the final pieces, or he really is like, where did this transpire? How did this happen? What are you doing, sis? It could 100% wave either way of that pendulum. So fantastic writing. I want to know, I want to speculate, do we think for Agnes, because we still haven't unlocked her, are they gonna like give us like a rewind of her of going back to episode 1 and seeing like her pathway, kind of like we did with Monica? We went back and saw how Monica entered the Hex. Are we going to see Agnes's rewind and see her in all of the episodes and what she was doing while everything else was going on?
We might get something like that. I mean, we've got 3 episodes left. And we've sort of, I mean, I could say this after every episode, to be honest, we've sort of reached our climax to an extent. Like, how much farther can this escalate beyond what just happened at the end of episode 6? Like, the barrier literally expanding, swallowing up, 95% of the people who are working on cracking this case. Like, how much farther are they going to let this go? And we've only got 3 episodes. So, yeah, could they do, similarly to what they did in episode 4, going back and showing what's been going on in the outside world? Could they go back before the Hex and give us a look at how this all got pulled together to help kind of give us some more puzzle pieces to work with as we head into the end of the show?
Excellent. One other speculation, I believe that Agent Wu is going to sneak into the Hex to save Darcy for 2 reasons, because I think they're buddies now, A, and B, I think that Monica is, guns a-blazing. She wants to go back in there anyways, and we already know that when Monica went in, both in and out, it changed her molecular atoms, is what Darcy figured out. So in fear of her getting hurt, I think Wu was going to like push her out of the way, a la Hawkeye and Black Widow's fight, and jump into the Hex to go get Darcy out of there. And then we could see Agent Wu in this world, whatever it might look like in episode 7.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, if Monica goes back in one more time, without any sort of special assistance or something, is that the final transformation that gives her powers? Like that, because we speculated photon powers last time because we knew that the X-rays were coming up blank. Now we know that her cells have changed at a molecular level. Is one more go going to be, what does it for her? Gives her powers.
Definitely.
That's definitely a question of mine. And then I think here's the big one. Can I give you a big one?
Let's go.
So episode 5, we get mention from Monica, another blink and you miss it sort of scene. Monica says, I got to get back in there. If I could find a way to basically build something that was meant to be in there, I could go in. And that's when Darcy first says, like, you can't go back in there. This is a ton of radiation, whatever. She's like, I've got an aerospace engineer who can help me out with this.
Yes.
And you're like, that's interesting. Like, she said that intentionally. And then at this episode, she's communicating with this person. She says, my guy, I got to go meet up with my guy. He's got me. I'm going back in. Like, I got to go meet him up. He's over on the other side of the ridge. Like, let's go. And she's left out of the Hex expanding. Jimmy Woo and Monica Rambeau make it out of there. So she is going to rendezvous with this mystery person. There is a pretty famous aerospace engineer in the Marvel universe by the name of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, head of the Fantastic Four. Is this our guy? Is that who Monica is meeting up with? Would make sense for her to know him, given her background and her past. And could it be our Reed Richards sighting?
It very well could be. And speculate a little more. John Krasinski did just host SNL the other week. He's in the spotlight, so
he would be a perfect casting. I mean, he's the fan casting. He's the flavor of the day for sure. I doubt that he's the one who gets cast for that reason. But I think here's an interesting piece of color from outside of the show. Disney announced the Fantastic Four at the Investor Day. This movie is not in production. It's not. They didn't talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. They didn't talk about, Black Panther 2. They didn't talk about a bunch of Blade. They didn't talk about a bunch of these movies that we already know are coming. Why did they mention Fantastic Four? Is it because they had to give the people something they wanted? Or was it because they were going to find out soon anyway with a cameo appearance by one Reed Richards? I mean,
they wanted to
makes you
prime
think.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the instead of because maybe it's maybe he's not in maybe he has not been affected by the radiation or that he experiences and to make them become the Fantastic Four. So maybe it's just Reed.
It might be, and I think maybe if that's the case, then we'll get a full Fantastic Four origin movie, and I think it's due. I think we're due for one. I mean, I know that there's been 2 crappy Fantastic Four movies, but I don't think the layman is super familiar with that group these days anymore, or how they came to get their powers. And so it could be opening that door, which would be great.
Yeah, and no Fantastic Four has been at the helm of Kevin Feige, so
yeah.
Easy, right. Just like that. I would be excited. I've been pondering this. I've been worried about it, of Fantastic Four. I think that's a great idea, great speculation. That would be really incredible because of the world of the MCU and everything we've seen in their films. What if some event that was caused during the course of the MCU makes their powers happen? Then that's an immediate line to connect all of it together versus a random event. So that would be pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Or rather, fantastic.
There you go. There it is. Yeah, I think that would be great. I think another piece of speculation, I don't even know if I call this speculation anymore. Young Avengers. We've been talking about it. The Young Avengers. I mean, this is all but confirmed at this point, right?
Hold that up.
We got it right here. Let's see. We got... there's our boy, Wiccan, right there. So that's Billy. I get the twins confused, but yeah, Billy.
It is.
And so this is all but confirmed. I mean, let's be honest. We've got Billy. We've got Tommy. They're going to age up a few more years, presumably. They've got powers. We've got Cassie Lang in the Ant-Man movies, who they just recently cast Catherine Newton from Big Little Lies as the new Cassie Lang in Ant-Man Quantumania, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and then we've got Haley Steinfeld, Kate Bishop. So there's 4/6 of the Young Avengers. They could probably throw in Miss Marvel. We know she's going to be really young. We've got a pretty young Spider-Man. So that's happening. I mean, I'm just saying it. I don't consider that speculation anymore. I mean, we're there practically.
Yep. And here's one last piece before we leave you. I want to know if you saw this, Cam. It's Halloween, right, in this episode, and there's all these Halloween things. But in one particular moment, they are looking at, there's kind of like this angled shot that just kind of scopes out the town square, and we open in with a spider right in the forefront, and then behind it, we linger on, like those parking lot, like come by this car, like that, like run, they float, they're like balloons in a way. But this thing is like dancing, and it's got Spider-Man's eyes on it.
Interesting.
Spider-Man's eyes, WandaVision. I don't know. I don't know. It's maybe it's just a nod to, yes, we are going to have the multiverse in Spider-Man 3, despite Tom Holland not knowing the script.
Well, I mean, the multiverse is here. I mean, the multiverse is already here. We've got, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we've got Quicksilver from another universe. There's no reason for them to, I mean, they can't just cast Evan Peters and then, like, that would be such a game. I mean, there's got to be more to that. They could have cast anybody as him if it's going to be inconsequential. There has to be a reason for it to be Evan Peters. So the multiverse is here. Maybe that is a nod to it. Like, hey, it's about to get weird. Let's get some spiders up in here.
Yes.
I mean, my last bit of speculation, we've talked about it a lot. You mentioned it actually first last episode. Quicksilver, I don't think is Quicksilver. I just don't. I don't think it's Pietro. I think, I mean, leader in the clubhouse, I would bet that it's Mephisto at the moment if I had to put money somewhere, but he's definitely in on it. He's probing Wanda. He's asking for more information. He's asking questions. He's trying to get details. He's forcing the issue. He's involved, and not in a good way. So I really feel like the big switcheroo is coming for him, and I'd be shocked if it didn't at this point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us again on Spilled Popcorn. We are going to go fall apart because of after all the speculation, our minds are melting, much like Vision almost did in this episode. So thank goodness he's alive again. We'll find out more on episode 7. Thank you so much to our wonderful musical group called Rhetoric for giving us all of our original music. And thank you. Please subscribe, please like, please share in every place you can. Cam, we will see you next Friday.
Bye.